Good morning and welcome to City News 24/7. I'm Melanie Ng. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is continuing his testimony in the foreign interference inquiry today in Ottawa. We bring in our Parliament Hill reporter Glen McGregor monitoring all of this. Glen, what have we learned thus far?
Yeah, Melanie, it used to be very rare that a sitting prime minister would testify before a public inquiry, but this, by my calculation, is the third time in the last 2 years he's appeared. Of course, he was at the inquiry that was looking into the federal government's response to the Freedom Convoy, and this is now his second appearance before the Foreign Interference Commission. And he appeared back in April when the commission was kind of focused on allegations of Chinese interference in Canadian elections. Now it's moved on to a different phase. It's looking kind of generally at how well protected Canadian institutions, federal government departments, are to identify and respond to threats of foreign interference. And a lot of this testimony that Trudeau has given so far in the first hour and a bit has been kind of process-oriented. That is, looking at kind of the flow of information. This is something that's come up in previous testimony, that there was information that CSIS had prepared about the threat of foreign interference that wasn't necessarily getting to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister spoke at length today about kind of the process of which he was briefed. He has weekly meetings with staff from CSIS and also his National Security Advisor and the Clerk of the Privy Council. And he was talking about how they kind of screen information for him. One of these things was a plan by CSIS to start briefing individual parliamentarians that they had identified as possibly being subject of interest to foreign governments and who might be a threat. And this plan didn't really make it to Justin Trudeau's desk. He didn't really know about it until he saw media reports later. Here he is talking about that process and sort of how he was insulated from this information by his senior staff.
Part of our regular meetings is the clerk highlighting, okay, there's this note that we sent to your office that has been there for a week or two or for too long, and we need a return on this because this is important and we need this to be acted on. And I'll say, okay, we'll follow up, and we dig it up from the pile of notes that we get and make sure that we prioritize that. In this case, nobody, neither CSIS, through their minister to me or directly to the clerk or to the NSIA, flagged that this was something that was of importance to them that was stalled. And therefore, as you pointed out, they were not acted on in my office.
Now, Trudeau also talked at length about how kind of the threat has changed since he became Prime Minister first in 2015. That has become a growing problem, and he talked about how serious a problem this is, the importance of the threat, and how a sort of a nonpartisan response is required by all parties in Parliament. He's going to be testifying, we expect, pretty much for most of the day. He's being examined right now by the Commission Council, but then there will be cross-examination by other parties that have a standing at the inquiry. Now, two issues we're watching very closely to see if he addresses. First of all, of course, on the subject of foreign interference, these explosive allegations that came out over the weekend about Indian interference in Canada and targeting with violence, intimidations, extortions, threats, primarily against the Sikh community, mostly in Ontario and British Columbia, to a lesser extent in Quebec as well. And so we're going to hear from him about the decision, we think, to expel the 6 Indian diplomats and India's response, retaliation, expelling 6 Canadian diplomats from the High Commission in New Delhi. And we're also going to see if he's going to say anything about Pierre Poilievre's response to this. Poilievre, of course, has elected not to have the necessary security clearances so that he could get briefings of top secret material about foreign interference. Poilievre says he needs to be able to speak freely about this. So we're going to see what Trudeau says about that. There's been criticism of that with Jagmeet Singh, the NDP leader, yesterday, criticizing Poilievre, saying if you want to be Prime Minister, you should be up to speed on all the inside information about what other governments are doing that could potentially threaten Canadians. So lots more testimony to come, Melanie, from the Prime Minister today. We're going to see how closely he gets into these kind of major issues that are dominating the news right now.
Yeah, it'll truly be an interesting day. Glen McGregor, as always, appreciate it. We'll check in with you again. Thank you.